All right, it's working. The magic of technology.
No, we are talking. This is a long distance call.
It is. We're on a long. Somebody made fun of me today about Skype, Rob, that I was still using Skype and not Zoom for podcasts. And you know what? If it's not broken, why fix it? Is what I say. I think Skype has the benefit of being free. A good thing. There's just two of us. We don't need video. I guess we could use video with Skype, but we don't need video. There's a lot of reasons why Skype is okay. I think that a lot of the cool kids moved because they were using Call Recorder and they wanted a backup solution that was in software, and Zoom can do its own backup recordings. But I've got that covered without needing Zoom because I have an audio interface that has a little red button on it. When I press it, it starts recording onto an SD card. So it's even physically separate from the internal storage of my Mac. So you have it.
I'm glad you've got a backup because I haven't.
If Ruminate is lost to the winds of time, it won't matter, I suppose, to too many people. It'll matter to somebody. It'll matter to you and me at least.
Right, that would be legitimately annoying
because we'd have to do it all over again, or say, we'll get back together in another week or two.
Right, exactly. If one gets lost, that's it. It's gone forever.
It's true. There are some. I have some. Let's see. I don't know how many times I've had things go horribly wrong. I had an interview go horribly wrong in App Stories one time where we had to redo it because the person who was a seasoned podcaster who will remain unnamed and developer did not, and that doesn't really narrow it down that much, but
not really.
They failed to record properly, and we had to redo it. That was one time, and I think I might have had to use Federico's Skype audio once, maybe. It happens, but
it does. But it's fine.
We have a lost episode too, where we recorded an interview with somebody who then got hired by Apple, and they weren't comfortable with us publishing the episode, which really sucked.
Yeah,
because we did all the work. I'd done all the work. I don't think I had edited it yet, though. But it was right in the midst of this person interviewing with Apple, and then they got the job, and yeah, it's fine. It's still on my drive somewhere. It's like blackmail material, if I ever need it to make something happen on the inside. There's really nothing, as I can recall, anything particularly controversial in that interview. But people who get hired by Apple get very quiet and very nervous very quickly. At least most of them do.
So you can't use that recording to get me custom Apple Watch faces or USB-C on the iPhone?
I don't think so. I'll try, though, maybe. We'll see. This would be a good experiment. And maybe I can, I don't know. It certainly wasn't Johnny Ive. So, to the extent he was out there making your watch faces for you, that's not going to help. But
yeah, that's it. All right. Well, shall we... This you messaged me this the other day, and this is probably the most ruminate thing we've had in a while, and this is a hot dog freezer pop, I believe is what Americans call these.
Yes, it's like a popsicle, but it supposedly tastes like a hot dog, and you can put mustard on it. And Rob, I don't even remember where I saw this. I ran across this. Well, I sent it to you immediately. So whenever I sent it to you, that's when, of course, I see these kind of things, and the first thing that pops into my mind is you. So I immediately texted it to you, and it was probably something I saw on Twitter. It could have been, since it's just a straight up link. Sometimes these things pop on Apple News because Apple News is really not the paragon of journalism that Apple likes you to think it is. There's all kinds of junk on there, including things like this.
Well, the link you sent me was an Apple News link.
Oh, see, and you went and found the original. Good for you.
Well, no, whatever site it was, I could not get it to load in the UK.
Huh.
I think I'm banned because I'm from the EU and GDPR. So I found the article on hypebeast.com.
Hypebeast. Okay.
So...
Yeah, Hypebeast. I've been on Hypebeast before. They've broken some Apple news once or twice back in the day, if you believe it or not. I think Apple Watch stuff in the early days when Apple, because remember when Apple did this thing where they went like, we used to just talk to tech reporters. Now we talk to YouTubers and fashion people and influencers, and Hypebeast was in the crowd of fashion/influencers who got a lot of information about the Apple Watch early on. That's a little known fact. Yes, this is dubbed the Cold Dog, according to the subtitle here. And I actually saw this and couldn't think of anything really more disgusting than this, because it's a popsicle that supposedly tastes like a hot dog. And I can only imagine that what they've done is they've taken that liquid that the hot dogs sit inside the packaging and collected a whole bunch of it, added a little pink food dye and frozen it up so it tastes, like a hot dog. And this is made by Oscar Mayer, and Oscar Mayer is a major maker, a producer of hot dogs in the United States. I don't know if you have them in the UK.
We don't have them, but I'm familiar with it because they have the hot dog car, right?
I have seen the Wienermobile in person, Rob, more than once. Yeah, I'm pretty special that way. It was the Wienermobile used to be based in the Chicago area for some reason. I think Oscar Mayer had a big plant in Chicago.
Right. So. I was just reading through this article though, and like just some of the things in this. This hot dog, or the cold dog, as you say, was created by Pop Bar, which is a premium frozen desserts company. I'm like, I didn't even understand like half this article. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, this is ridiculous.
They have Pop Bar locations in Long Beach, New York City, Atlanta, New Orleans, and they'll only be available while supplies last for $2. So I am not close enough to any of those places. I guess Atlanta's not too far off, but I'm not making a special road trip just to get this.
We've had, you've had various chips, and I've done the horrible KFC, whatever it was called, where it was like a taco, but it was chicken.
Oh, right.
We've done many horrible things. I would not even suggest that you try this because it's just this is going to be bad.
Yeah, we started off the show with a pizza that had hamburgers baked into the crust. Remember that was
I think it was Pizza Hut.
Oh yeah, it was Pizza Hut. And while that is an undoubtedly disgusting thing, I think I could actually eat that without throwing up. Whereas I'm not sure about this, to be honest, whether I could eat this, take a bite of this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. This is not. I don't want this. I don't think anybody should have it. This feels like a product designed for YouTubers and TikTokers to say, "Oh, look at me! I've got the horrible hot dog freezer pop."
Well, it gets hot in the South, and you need your freezer pops. So I don't know.
That's true.
I actually bought some of those. I bought some margarita freezer pops here in North Carolina. It was they're actually just like, they're not really popsicles. They're not on a stick. They're just in a little envelope of plastic, and you cut the end off and you squeeze them out.
Yep.
And what's interesting in North Carolina is that the hard liquor is distributed by the state, not by regular private stores. So things like this, though, I think are technically, because they aren't actually made with tequila, I think that they're really just like wine coolers that have been frozen. And so if you have wine under a certain percentage by, volume or something of alcohol, you can sell them in a regular supermarket. And so I had some of these this summer, and they're okay. Not the best, but if you're really hot and you want your margarita, but you don't want to go out and go to a restaurant or buy the ingredients yourself, just squeeze it out of a piece of plastic.
Yeah, I mean that format of ice lolly type, we call those ice poles.
Okay.
They're really, really popular, really common in the UK.
Okay.
I got a whole drawer in my freezer full of them of various flavors. I got slush puppy. I got just the generic, really cheap ones.
We've got some of those too.
Yeah,
just like grape and lime and cherry. Like really basic flavors. We got some of those, but then we've got regular margarita and strawberry margarita, I think, and they weren't so good that they went very quickly. We've had them since we moved here. They've just been sitting in the freezer waiting to be consumed when someone's desperate enough for a cold snack.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm certainly not eating them all the time, but they are... I think you'd be hard pushed to go into most people's houses in the UK and they wouldn't have at least a few of those in their freezer.
All right. Well, you know what? We should stop talking about frozen treats, especially ones that are hot dog flavored, and get a little more cultured. It sounds like you had an actual cultural experience that I want to hear about.
Oh, yeah. No, it was very cultured. I saw 2 theatre shows in one day.
Oh, my gosh.
Which I don't necessarily recommend.
It's a lot of time.
So a few years ago, I saw the Harry Potter play. And if you don't know, it's 2 plays. So you see the first half in the afternoon and then the second half in the evening. And both halves, it's like 2.5 hours for each one. By the end of that day, I was just ruined. I was exhausted. So this was last week. We saw Hamilton in the afternoon, and then we saw Six, which is a musical featuring all six of Henry VIII's wives.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I think it's fairly new. I think it's maybe a couple of years old, and it's sort of been touring around, smaller theatres. It's sort of in the same vein as Hamilton, sort of take a historical thing and put it to more modern music like rap and stuff like that. Now, thankfully, Six is only about 90 minutes.
Oh, that's
so
good.
It wasn't.
Hamilton's pretty long, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it's the best part of 3 hours if you include the intermission and stuff like that.
Gosh, wow. I have not seen Hamilton. That's why I don't know how long it is.
Yeah. Well, it was so good that we immediately came home and then watched it on Disney Plus again. Obviously, it different cast because we're in the UK theatres, but we were like, no, I want to watch it again. So I'd seen it before on Disney Plus. Like that was kind of why I wanted to go and see it live.
Yeah.
And it was just so good. I mean, it's just the sheer amount of effort that goes into these shows is mind blowing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is amazing. Yeah, I think I'm one of the few people on the planet who has not seen even 1 minute of Hamilton on television or in the theater. I should probably correct that at some point. But I have heard that the Disney version is quite good.
Oh yeah, I mean the version that's on Disney Plus because it's the original cast and they filmed it over I think 4 or 5 performances. So you still get like the audience clapping and cheering and stuff like that, but then there's other performances that they did where they can get close-ups and different angles and stuff like that. So it's actually a really good way to watch it because you can you get to sort of see everything. And obviously with the original cast, like there was some people in the show that I saw, like the actual live show I saw, where I thought they were better than the original cast, but then there's some people in the original cast that are way better than the people I saw. So like, like the Disney Plus version really is like that's the definitive way to see it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, neat. That's a lot more culture than going out to coming to America to eat a hot dog pop.
I know. I'm sure this is what the founding fathers were really. They were really looking for this. They were like, right, no, we've got to get to hot dog freezer pop by 2022.
It's the pinnacle of pop culture. We really can't really beat from a food standpoint. I don't know that we can ever really top the hot dog pop. But
yeah, exactly.
In that sense, Hamilton and the hot dog pop are two peas in the same pod, really, Rob, because, a lot of people would argue that Hamilton, too, is the pinnacle of musical theater. And, maybe they should have finished that version you saw with everybody having a freezer pop on stage as they took a bow.
I mean, jokes aside, like Hamilton is the only way I know anything about American history.
I think that's true for a lot of Americans, unfortunately, too.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It's like, did you know that rap music was invented in the time of Alexander Hamilton? It's true.
I know, it's amazing that they did rap battles to decide things in the Congress, but that's...
Yeah, where did that go? Those were the good old days when we used to do that.
What a wondrous land America is.
Wow. Oh, man. So, Rob, I am getting very close to a Steam Deck.
So have you ordered one?
Well,
or do you mean you're hovering on a buy button?
I'm not hovering on a buy button quite yet. I'm about to hover on a buy button is really what I'm saying, because I put down my $5, in the reservation system back in March. Not really that long after. I think they started shipping them either at the end of February or early March. and I did my reservation. I think it was the 19th of March, and there are these websites. I mean, the Kremlinology that goes into reverse engineering when people think they're going to get their Steam Decks is really impressive. There are whole websites dedicated to it that are fed by hundreds, if not thousands, of people entering their order data. And so what they do is every time there's a drop of these, which happens on Mondays and Thursdays, they kind of figure out who was the person with the latest order to get one. And from that, they can kind of estimate when you're going to get your invitation. And as of only just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, the way they calculate it kind of is how many days of orders or how many units were ordered before yours, and how far is Valve through that that chunk of Steam Decks. And because pre-orders were taken long before they ever shipped, there were something like 120 or 130 days of pre-orders before I ever ordered. And as of just a few weeks ago, Valve had only gotten through maybe 35% of those pre-orders. And it just looked like it was going to take forever. I was in the Q4 group, which means I should get it by the end of the year, but who knows? But then about 2 weeks ago, Valve said they've been able to make so many more of these that they had moved a bunch of people from Q4 to Q3. That included me, which meant I would get it by the end of September, which is pretty cool since tomorrow is September. And that got me to looking, and I found this out literally the day after. We did a town hall in the Club Mac Stories Discord where Mike Hurley and Federico were again pushing me to try to order one from StockX. And I
of course they were.
I literally had it on my phone ready to order from StockX because the price had been going up and down, and I had been watching it, and it, when I first started tracking around StockX, it was like $825. I was like, oh, that's a lot. But then it went all the way back up to like $1,000. I was like, there's no way I'm paying $1,000 for this. And then the news started coming out that they're accelerating shipments, so it started drifting back down. But I was getting impatient, and these guys were telling me I really need to live the life. And I came very, very close to buying it on StockX. I'm so glad I didn't, because then they started doing these accelerated shipments, and I went from 35 to like 60% to 70% within the span of a week. So I think, it's moving fast enough now that I don't think I will be in this week's batch of shipments for Thursday, or emails that get sent out. But I do think by the second week of September, I should get my email, and I think I'm going to go for it because I bought the Ioneo, which is a really nice machine, and I really like the idea of just the concept of a handheld gaming Windows PC. But Valve has done some stuff with their emulation layer and their special graphics hardware built into this. It's not unlike what Apple is kind of doing with some of its own silicon stuff with both Macs and iOS devices. And the performance on them is just really good. And it's become so popular that virtually any decent title that comes out now has some sort of Steam Deck support. So I want to experience the full on Steam Deck lifestyle with portable gaming that way. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully by the next time we record this, I should have an order in. I don't know if I'll have it though.
Yeah, I'm not buying one. Certainly not right now.
Yeah.
But it does kind of appeal to me in a weird way, because I don't really want to buy a gaming PC. Like, that's not.
I don't either. That's
really
the thing.
Interested.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so I could have this like handheld thing that I could keep on my desk, because this is where I play games anyway. I've got my PS5 hooked up to a monitor, and like I could just have the Steam Deck there, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could do that. So, certainly not something I'm going to start pre-ordering and reserving and getting on a list or anything. Like, I'm quite happy to wait. I imagine by the time I even think about buying one, there'll be a new version out. But
well, that's the thing, is I do wonder about that. Like, am I going to buy this and then they're going to announce they're accelerating the sales or the shipments now so that they can announce something by January, by CES next year, which would be the first week of January.
Yeah, everything I've seen about it, it's like, no, this is actually a pretty good system for pretty much anybody that wants some kind of portable gaming PC. Like you say, there are alternatives, but like the stuff that Steam have done themselves is making it way more available and accessible for all these other games that are, on the Steam store and everything else that you can do with it.
Yeah, there are a lot of quality of life things too that I think just make it easier to use than like, I like the Aya Neo a lot, but first of all, it's way more expensive than the Steam Deck. It was like twice the price. So while the Steam Deck is expensive, one of those Windows PC handhelds is even more. And they tend to be more fiddly because you're having to deal with, you're dealing with Windows. You're dealing with Windows updates. You're dealing with, trying to navigate a mouse-driven UI with thumbsticks, which isn't ideal, right? So a lot of times what I end up doing, if I have a lot of stuff, if I have to really drop into Windows and do some things, I'll hook it up to an external keyboard and mouse and just use it that way. I've got a dedicated, cheap mouse and keyboard. I had an old keyboard lying around, plus I got a cheap mouse, and I just have those for when I need to do updates and do things where I've got to click around, where it's just easier to click around in the UI with a pointing device. So I think, the thing about the Steam Deck is that although it also has the same kind of input mechanisms, it also has touchpads, which work a lot better, as like trackpads of sort, instead of, you've got the ability to kind of move a cursor around that way, in a way that you can't really with thumbsticks.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of these things that's sort of in the back of my mind that I'm like, I might buy one at some point, but in all honesty, I'm in no rush. I'm not finding enough time to play the games I've got now. So
yeah, that's one of my problems. And I think one of the problems with all this stuff that's going on, it's kind of fun to play with all these gizmos and gadgets. On the other hand, I've at least started having some paralysis of choice, where it's like, okay, well, this game's available. Where am I going to play it? Am I going to play this on, Game Pass, because I already subscribed to that and it won't cost me anything more? Or am I going to play it on the OLED screen of the Switch? Or am I going to save it for, maybe I'm going to do it on the Steam Deck? And there's like advantages and disadvantages to each of those things. And, I didn't tell you this. I talked about this a little bit on App Stories Plus, but I got this adapter that I can connect the Joy-Cons to my iPad mini and my iPhone now. Yes. So, you know the Game Vice, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes, I do.
This is a little bit like the Game Vice. So it's but it's 3D printed by a guy in California. And Federico discovered this on Etsy. And this guy 3D prints these things. It's a bracket that has kind of a slot mechanism in the back and a little thumb screw, so you can expand it and contract it, make it the right size, and a couple of little pads that press against the sides, the top and bottom of either the phone or the iPad. And you slot your iPad mini or your iPhone in there, you push it together, tighten it up, slot the Joy-Cons in, because iOS 16 and iPadOS 16 support the Joy-Con. You can then Bluetooth pair them and play games that way. And it's really well done for something that's 3D printed. The tolerances are really tight. It was only $21.
Oh, wow. That's really cheap.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they only ship to the US, I'm sorry to say.
That's all right. I'm not buying one.
but it is actually pretty nice. And the reason I bring it up is because it's yet another option of ways to play games. I mean, I was playing Townscaper. Townscaper's a fun little digital toy type game where you're building towns out in the ocean, little villages. And you can play that on iOS. You can play that on your Xbox. I know it's on the Switch. I'm sure it's on, PlayStation too. And the question is, where do you want to play it? Do you want to play it on your big TV? Do you want to play it on your iPhone? Do you want to play it on an iPad mini with Joy-Con? There's a lot of ways to do it. And it's always interesting to me what's kind of like the best. And the best often isn't necessarily like technically the best, but it may be the most convenient, the way that you're going to play a game the most.
Oh, yeah, of course. Because if you're going to sit there and say which one's the best, technically, well, you're going to play it on the PS5 or the Xbox. Like, it's
right on a big screen TV.
Right, I don't think there's any argument there, but like you say, it's not necessarily what you always want to do. Like if you want it portable, well, the PS5, the Xbox, it's maybe not what you're looking for. But, it's nice to have choices, but as you say, paralysis of choice is a big problem.
It is, and you think about all those different screens and all those different choices. I mean, the Steam Deck screen is roughly the same as, I believe, it's like the same as the Neos, and I think it's roughly the same as the original Switch, which is not OLED. It's not quite as crisp. It's 720, I believe. I shouldn't say because I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. But anyway, there's a lot of different ways to look at that and how smooth the game's going to play, depending on what the hardware driving the screen is and all that kind of thing. Yeah, so I'm into feeds and speeds, Rob. That's what it comes down to. I'm into Windows feeds and Linux feeds and speeds.
Well, on that note, I think we should we'll end it for this week, I think.
All right, sounds good. I'll talk to you soon.